next step would be to work on export. Now the question is this document going to move over to export directly, or is it going to go into verify? And I think we can add one more thing to our routing table. I don't want to set this to yes. I want to have one more rule in here that just says if that app name is not 0, then, or is not blank, then go ahead and route. But where is this connected to? This is probably connected to pages of page and like page, which is going to be fine because these inherited that page type, I think. Well, I didn't build this through Datacap FastDoc, so it might not have that inheritance. That's a good question. I'm going to open one more application, see what that inheritance looks like, because I don't remember if it did or not. I could actually close it, so I could show you that too. Instead of going through lots of rigmarole, this is another case where FastDoc Capture might be a better place to look at this and change that part of the application, just to make sure we are inheriting from page and like page. So let's just do that. I'll publish this rule set. Everything's saved. I'll exit out of this. We're going to run FastDoc. There's my page hierarchy. There this is. Use rule sets. Yeah, so it isn't there. I'm going to use rule sets from page. So that's where that is. Here I can say enable use rule sets from doc. That's that inheritance thing. That's why we don't change document. I should save that. I'll go back now to Datacap Studio because there's not much more I can do in that application any longer. I can start it here. Oh, I started notes, that's AP, so it'll jump to that one unless I run a second one. The gateway. And now it should have some sort of inheritance from this. You can check it. I just didn't know what the variable names were. I can do this by choosing manage variables here, and it's going to have a base is the thing, B-A-S-E. So I can always have just done it right here, but I didn't know what the variable was called. So I would have add one, but I didn't know what it was called. Now I've got that inheritance done. That means that the routing will work on that document type and page type. Here's that page level rule. I'm going to add one more here. And it'll return true. So I'm going to call this F check for route to app. So if this is blank, invalidations here, empty field value, see what this runs on, page or field level, but I've got to have a name in here, the name of the field to be emptied. I don't want to empty the field, I want to say is empty. Is field empty? Let's look at this one. Again, it takes a parameter, name of a field, and if it's empty, I'm going to have it route. Otherwise, I don't want it to route. So let's go here, say is field empty. This one's called gotta open it so I can see it, or just remember it, I guess. PP name. So if that field's empty, then it didn't pick up a field, so I want it to go to the verify so I can manually choose it. This one is right here. I'm going to do an RR set. And if it's set, I want it to go straight through too. So I'm going to have to say, add one more function. F check for route to app set. This one's going to do something very similar, but instead of is field empty, I'm going to say is field filled. And I think I'm going to set the document status to, well, it won't route then. So it just won't route because it'll return true from this. None of the statuses will get set to 1, and then it'll go from there. Need the field name in there. APP name, there it is. Save it, publish it, and it should route now. So this field should go straight, this page that we just did should go straight to export, but there's no way to test it in DStudio. So let's just go and look at what happens when we run it in Datacap Desktop. I'm going to publish this rule set. I'm going to go back over to my test. I saw an unlocked one there. It's something you have to be really careful of because routing's already attached. Look up fingerprint class worked. I'm going to go back to my test tab. I had a batch running here. Oh, we quit out, so it went right to hold. I'll pick that. There it is. It's in profiler mode. It's already got the app name, but in order to do the next step, I've got to go through and run it in DStudio. I also have to turn on this split batch again, so it will split batches if needed. Something you turn on and off during kind of testing. So if it needs verify, but needs verify should never have been set to yes because it was here. This is what should have gone through. So we'll check that out. Now go right over here to Datacap desktop. Oh, did I put that in pending mode? Make sure I did. That says it's running. That's a good idea. Put in pending so it's ready. Accounts, the gateway. There's all my batches. Oh, it's in verify mode. How would it be in verify mode? Oh, that's accounts. It's not the gateway. Look at all those. There it is. Profiler. It's in profiler mode. I'll run that. It should send it straight to export with a status of finished. Okay. Yeah, it went straight to export. So it didn't split the batch out because the app got the right field name. So that's good. That's how that worked. Let's go and check this. Now we will send this to Datacap Studio. We'll go look at this batch again. You can refresh here. You'll see that it jumped right to export, and now this one is pending. Now we've got to do our export step, and this is where finally, after all that time we've built our application, this is finally where kind of the meat of this application is going to be. This is where we're going to copy the file to a different task or a different application altogether that'll do the final processing. Now I know this is one of those beneficiary designation forms or some other kind of account form or an HR document, what is. So I need to kind of rebuild my export rule sets here. These aren't that hard to build here. So the export by default exports all the fields and just does it to this export folder. Okay, creates a text file and exports all the fields. We can just change that. We can create a new one. It can go either way. I just need to look at what that is. Now I would probably use variables to do this, these smart parameters, but in this case I'm going to hard code them just because it goes faster in the demo. But in a lot of cases, this parameter, this app path export, comes right from the Datacap application manager. I can show you that. If I look at the gateway, I see this, the export folder. This is the value that's going to come back. I can set my own and custom values, create them here, and access them as appvar values gen. And then this one would be called settings file or whatever I called it. So that's how you get those values out. In this case, do I need to do a whole lot more? This is really just going to do a copy file. So I don't need to do the set export params per se. Instead of removing them all for now, I'm just going to disable them and just leave them there. They'll still run. It'll leave me some way to, this probably runs at the batch level is what I'm saying. Yeah, it runs at the batch level. It probably leaves me some way. This one's going to run on pages like page. I can always say of type route to FastDoc, but it doesn't really matter because remember it's inheriting that page type functionality. This one I don't need to do. Disabled. What I need to do is set this action to use file IO, and let's get split the file name. So I need all the parts of the file name because I'm going to have to use this. The input file name is, drumroll please, I'm going to have to look at this in either the test tab, go over, click on my batch, pick it, and look at what the variables are, the properties are for this page. Here's the image file. Typically it's image file. I'm going to break this thing into pieces, so I've got a lot of data on that. But I'm going to give the batch name on the file I pass it to probably this batch ID, so it doesn't get, I can't call it TM001 because I might have 3 different threads sending documents at the same time, so I need a unique number, so I'm going to use the TM or the batch number when I send it over to this file. So this one I'm going to say, go back to here, image file, root path is the variable, and I'll say at p dot f root, and I just give them an f name on the beginning, dot f path at p dot f file, and at p dot f ext. So I've got all the file name split up. And the next step is I'm going to copy that file. Oh, I want to do a couple different exports. I need to do, instead of export page function, I'm going to say export to, and I could probably do these in some settings and do a simple kind of lookup to do that and do much more simpler functions, but I'll just have a function per page type, at least in this case. If it got really complicated, had lots of functions, I'd probably change it around to have more variables, things I got out of the settings files or one of the Datacap application manager variable names. Export to accounts. App. Put an F in front of that, makes it easier for me to find. There's the split file name. Next step is I want to compare this. I can do this in RR compare, rule runner, RR compare. You could look at this, so you can just say RR compare this variable with that variable, and it either returns true or false. So I didn't do an RR compare here because I wanted to drop down to a different function if this one doesn't work. In this case, there's my RR compare. I guess I could do a split file name after or before. This one is going to be called, what was our type called? I can find it in my test tab. Oh, you need to do it based on your zones, because this is where that value is going to come, account or HR doc. In this case, account, ACCOUNT, and this one is at p backslash, because it's too many buttons, at p backslash route, oh, just app name, app name. So it's going to look in that field. Remember, backslash is field, dot is variable. This is the actual value. It's going to compare those two. If they're the same, make sure RR compare returns false if the values don't match. If they do match, if it's account, meaning it matched whatever's in that fingerprint class, then it's going to return true and keep running. From that point forward, we want to do the next step, which is to copy the file. Go back to File IO, copy file, and this one will take a couple rounds to get right, but we can keep running it over and over until we get it right. I'm going to copy the source file, which is basically at p.image file, and the target file is going to be c:\Datacap. Again, would variabilize these, put them in the application manager, accounts, backslash. You know, it might be easier just to go to that folder, copy it off the clipboard, or off the top here. So there it is, copy that. That's where I want it to go. I think we might need a plus in between these backslashes, so I'm going to do that now. And you'd see the difference in the logs if something like that wasn't working. Single TIFFs, and overwrite is false. Oh, but that's just copying it to that. That's the folder name. Now what is the file name that I'm going to give it? And my plus backslash plus at p dot at batch id plus underscore plus at p dot f. Remember, we got this out. We got the f path. F name is what I want to go. I called it f file. Plus at p dot f ext. So we'll see what we get. It's going to copy that file over there. It's either going to work or not work. And at this point, I'm just going to test it, see if it works. Copies the file over there. We'll know soon enough. Just simply choose export. It's already running. I picked it. Say run. Keep running. We can go look at the logs. You know, you can be hopeful. And oh my gosh, look at that right there. File came over. but it doesn't have the right extension on it, so we're going to have to figure something out. But it got the name. It is called image file. Why is it called image file? So we can go look at that page type right here. Just go look at some names here. Just go look at the properties. I can get these in the file, the XML file itself with that, but where are these? So f path was image file. Oh, because I gave it the wrong, that's what I gave it. I gave it a string. So that split file name didn't work because I used image file, and I should have said at p, oops, gotta lock it first. Gotta call it at p.image file. So save that, publish it, run it again, export, keep running, go look at that folder. Now there's the file. It's going to be unique. Wow, that's pretty easy. A lot easier than I thought it was going to be. And there it is. So now this application will pick up that file based on that page ID stuff. The next one, we can do the same exact thing. We would just copy this and do the same thing for the HR doc. Here it would be, I would just really literally just copy this, lock the rule set, copy this function, paste it in, and get rid of the copy of, f export to not accounts app, HR app. Okay, and I would change my comparison to say, and I could probably get rid of the split file name because it's going to happen multiple times. It's probably not that expensive. I'm just going to leave it for now. And this one is called HR doc. Now let's see what I got on my zones. HR doc, HR underscore DOC with a capital D. Comparing that to the app name. If it is, then I'm going to copy it to the, instead of C colon Datacap accounts, I'd say HR doc, and then images single TIFF, and now that HR app will pick that up. And it could do single pages, multi-pages. We could do all kinds of page identification. I've showed other videos that do, you know, multi-page page identification where you're just looking for fingerprints and everything in between is a trailing page. You could do those kinds of things as well. But you would never have to worry about trailing pages. You would set all the in-between pages to that same page type, the previous page type. So anything in between something that had an app name of accounts and then one that didn't, you could set it that way as well. If you found a fingerprint, maybe set them in between. Lots of ways. It's all just page ID kind of iteration, trial, keep trying it to make sure you get it to dial in to using the documents that you're using. Not sure if that's it yet. Is that enough where I've shown what you would need to do this? So I've got two different doc types coming through. I'd split those out to the applications. What are some other ways? What I've seen at least one person write custom code here, a custom action that made a call out to the Datacap web services and transferred the file directly into the batch, created the batch, may have passed some values over to it, but in this case we're just doing page ID. I didn't do anything with the routing for pages that weren't understood. Let's go look at it and see how I can choose where this file goes. Get some smarts in there, get a file that we don't know what it is, SAMPS, beneficiary designation. This one doesn't have, where is it? Which one has it? That we said wouldn't. Okay, so this one has a different layout. It might not recognize this. Make sure that's it. 6, yeah. So this one shouldn't recognize. Say copy. It should go to verify. Then verify will give us a pull down. We can pull it down, create a fingerprint around it, pass the data off to content classification, however you want to do it. Copy this. Get over to our input folder for the gateway. Can get rid of that one. Put this one in here. Now what happens when it doesn't recognize it? This one's done. Cancel that, create a new batch. So So this one should not have an app name. See, it's blank right there. So hopefully this will route. We're going to test that routing interface. I can't do the routing through Profiler because Datacap Studio doesn't do the routing. So I'm just going to put this in pending, go back to my Datacap desktop, refresh that view for all, and I've got this batch ready to go. It ran it. What did it do? With finished, where did it go? It went straight to export. So for some reason this 204001 went straight to export. We can go look at our routing stuff for that and just do some debugging. Really, I might not go through that. I'd look at this log, go and try to figure out where the error actually was, go to Datacap Studio to find out where I needed to look, and it's going to be, I'm looking for routing here. Remember I had a new route, F check for route. Let's just look for that. There it is. Is the app name empty? So it's not empty. Returned false. So it should have been empty. So then it got to the is field, didn't go through. So there's something wrong here with check for route empty. I can just compare it as well. I could do one of those two things. Maybe compare that field. Let's try that instead. That means I got to run all the way back through it again. Probably not going to keep going through that. You guys know how to debug. You'll be able to go through this and fix that field right there. Have it return that when it is empty, it returns that it is empty. I think it's a comparison issue. We could probably use our compare here. It's probably a better idea. See if it's empty and go from there. So there it is. That's how I build a gateway app. I just make my page ID get smarter and smarter and filter my documents out to more and more sources. If I want to do this in the learning application, I would create another main page. Let's jump over to my accounts application. I would jump over to my accounts application. I'd have to create another document type and have different page types. So I'd have main page 2, trailing page 2, attachment separator 2. So I'd have them have different names, but then going into it, I'd have to have a smarter page identification to go out to those various documents. But I can use something like Flex, where let's just say I feed something through here. Let's just look at Flex. Let's take a couple of these documents here. I'll take a couple of these tax documents that it doesn't even understand, and we control click two of these that it does. Copy those over to my accounts application. Run this through. Oh, I can't run it through there. I'm going to run it through Datacap Desktop, switch over to accounts, and I think I can tell it to run Flex. I think that's part of one of the ones that already understands. There's accounts. Say all vscan and Flex. Single TIFF. So this brings up another dialog box. It finished reading in the 4 files, but before it goes to page ID, there's more of a manual task, and I can have another task that tries to do the page ID beforehand, but in this case it's just gonna do the Flex ID automatically. So this one hasn't identified any of them. I'd have to put it through my page ID and then do the Flex if I had some page ID stuff going on, which I would. In this case, I'm going to manually choose that this is a main page, but I would have now not just main page, but have main page 2, main page 3, all the different kinds of main pages, and flip them out that way. But these are all going to be main pages. So with Flex, I can go through, and there's all kinds of keyboard shortcuts here. All the users that use this know that they do different ways of using shortcuts. That's one where I use the shortcuts and use tab and moved around to it. The operators get really fast at this, identifying the pages. They just go through and identify them all, but we try to do a pre-sort to identify them. Out of the box it doesn't have one, but you can add that pretty easily just using the same functionality we've already done. So that's kind of different strategies of building a gateway app and having multiple different documents going into a learning app. You can have only one type going through, you can have multiple types going through, you can have a gateway app that separates it to your different applications. There's many ways to do it. It's one of the great things about Datacap is it's super flexible. I can do all this kind of different stuff, which is also kind of a curse because you have lots of different things you can do and it takes a while to learn how to do those. But that's the final one. Hope you enjoyed and got something out of it. Thanks.